Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are talking about your cell phone because apparently just turning on your cell phone's lock screen constitutes a search under U.S. law, and here's what's going on because we have some new case law that just came to light. Now this is coming mostly from Ars Technica in an article by Kate Cox. It's just great reporting, and let's just dive into it because typically, thanks to the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and obviously all the case law that has been built around the Fourth Amendment since it was written, police generally need a warrant to search your phone, and that includes just looking at the lock screen, and this is according to a recent ruling. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Usually the topic of phone search comes up in court, and it has to do with unlocking the phone. Now, the courts have held that law enforcement can actually compel you to use your body, such as you forcing your fingerprint onto the phone or using your face to unlock it, but they cannot compel you to share knowledge, such as forcing you to tell them a PIN number or a password. That's a differentiator. In this recent case, though, the FBI did not unlock the phone. Instead, they just looked at the phone's lock screen for evidence, and here's what happened. Now, a man from Washington State was arrested in May of 2019 and was indicted on several charges related to both robbery and assault. Not a nice guy. The suspect, Joseph Sam, was using an unspecified Motorola smartphone, obviously Android if it's Motorola, and when he was arrested, he said one of the officers present hit the power button to bring up the phone's lock screen. Now, interestingly enough, the filing that he has in this case does not say that the police officer present, actually attempted to unlock the phone or force Mr. Sam to do that. And fast forward now to February 2020, about 8-9 months later, the FBI then turns on the phone and they took a photograph of the phone's lock screen which displayed the name Streezy on it, which I assume is either slang or a nickname for someone or something. Now, Mr. Sam's lawyer then filed a motion arguing that this evidence should not have been sought without a warrant and therefore needs to be suppressed. In other words, it needs to be thrown out from the court case, whoever or whatever Streezy is. Now, a district judge, John Coffenor, and he is of the U.S. District Court in Seattle, actually agreed with this. Now, in the ruling, the judge determined that the police looking at the phone at the time of the arrest and the FBI looking at it again months later are actually two separate issues. The police are allowed to conduct searches without a search warrant under special circumstances. This is according to the judge. And looking at the phone's lock screen may have been permissible as it, and I quote, took place either incident to a lawful arrest or as part of the police effort to inventory the personal effects of the person arrested, in this case, Mr. Sam. But because the judge was unable to determine how specifically the police acted, he ordered clarification to see if their search of the phone fell under those parameters, and I believe that's going on. But where the police actions were actually unclear in this, the FBI, according to the judge, was crystal clear and basically was contrary to Mr. Sam's Fourth Amendment rights. And to quote the judge, here the FBI physically intruded on Mr. Sam's personal effect when the FBI powered on his phone to take a picture of the phone's lock screen. That qualifies then as a search under the terms of the Fourth Amendment, according to the judge, and since the FBI did not have a warrant for that search, it was unconstitutional. But the government has an argument in this side as well, and it is actually a very simple one, but I think it's also a logical one as well, which is why I think there may be some debate on this, because the government argued that Mr. Sam should have no expectation of privacy on his lock screen because everyone who isn't you is basically meant to see when they access the phone. Meaning, if I have, let's say, statuses and notifications on my lock screen and somebody walks by that I don't know, or maybe I do know, picks it up and turns it on, that doesn't mean they're getting into the phone because it might have a PIN number or a password, but they can see who I've gotten messages from, who's communicating with me, and all of that. And so by virtue of that, that is typically, according to the government, that is public knowledge, public information, and therefore not classified under the search. But the judge said that was actually irrelevant. It doesn't matter what is on his lock screen, and he stated, and I quote, When the government gains evidence by physically intruding on a constitutional protected area, as the FBI did here, it is unnecessary to consider whether the government also violated the defendant's reasonable expectation of privacy. So, in other words, the FBI pushing the button on the phone to activate the lock screen qualified as a search, regardless of the lock screen's nature. Now, I think this is actually overall just a step in the right direction. Again, excellent reporting here, but it's definitely a step forward in terms of privacy. Personally, I have my phone encrypted, and my settings are such that my lock screen displays absolutely nothing personal except the date, the time, and I believe the battery charge. That's about it. And I think that's the most way to have it set up. If I ever lose it, or it's stolen, the only thing the lock screen basically has, and it has an emergency contact number for me to get the phone back, but then I'm not worried about theft of data, nor would I be worried about, let's say, if I was arrested protesting something, and I've not been out protesting, but if I was, and that seems relevant to this conversation here as well, if the police were to turn off the phone and turn it back on, all they would get is an encrypted password, and my lock screen shows them absolutely nothing, nor can they compel me to do that. Obviously, the most secure thing being, removing a fingerprint or a Face ID and having to type in a password, which would be very obnoxious, would be the safest thing to do in a situation like that. But I think overall, this is a step in the right direction. In a time where we are continuously surveilled and our laws have not been keeping up, with the technology explosion and evolution that we've had in the last 20 odd years or so, it's nice to see that case law is coming down on the side of the right of the individual sometimes and not of the government, even if the situation looks like we have a possible bank robber / assaulter here. Again, we shouldn't be making laws to the lowest common denominator. That's my thought anyway. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because I think it's a very important topic, and I have no doubt that this will be up to debate because, as the government says, the lock screen's public. What you do with it is open to the public, anybody that bumps your phone or turns it on. So I think there is room for debate here, but, I'm obviously on the side of the judge on this one. So with that is your news of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.